Yael, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us. I'm really excited to learn more about the real estate work that you're doing, work with blockchain, and I know these are all really hot topics right now. So I'm really excited to learn more about that. But before we get into all of those things, tell me a little bit about your background and how you sort of came into this world.
Thank you, Deval, for having me. It's really it's a great pleasure to talk to you today. So my story starts on Wall Street, and where I started working at the age of 19 at a broker dealer as an analyst. Then I moved to Israel and did M&A, private equity, financial engineering for a number of years. I did private and public offerings for companies as an analyst, as a writer. So, with all of that background in finance, I, wanted to become an investor myself at a certain point. And I asked my boss at the financial engineering firm, can part of my salary be put in one of the funds that I am structuring. And the answer was no. You're not an accredited investor. Even with all that knowledge, you can't invest. So that's when I realized, wow, most people are cut off from the best financial products out there. And, part of our products was real estate funds. And so, I wanted to see how I can go and invest. And I realized the space is so limited for so many people. First of all, you need a lot of money to invest. You need to have access to these products, and finally your money is stuck for many years in just one project. So that was kind of my realization of the problem for the first time. I moved to the blockchain space kind of by accident. I started doing startups of my own maybe 7-8 years back in fintech. And in 2017, somebody asked me, why aren't you doing this on blockchain? It's kind of every once in a while people hear about things and technologies that are popular at the time, and they're asked, why aren't you doing this on blank? And then I looked it up and I was like, wow, this is so fascinating. And I'd heard about Bitcoin at that point, but I didn't really get into the tech behind it. And the tech behind it fascinated me because I realized, being in finance for so long, and then at the same time understanding how many people are cut off from wealth and from being able to, to maintain wealth or to create it. And I was like, wow, this is something that enables everybody to be their own bank and everybody to, choose their own products and transact. And I was like, I just had this breakthrough. And so once I kind of put the two together, I was like, wow, blockchain and real estate, that could be super powerful. And so in 2018, I was consulting governments and banks and regulated institutions, about using blockchain. And then I decided, okay, it's time to do a startup again. And I started something similar to SolidBlock. And I started looking at the field and use cases, and Aspen Coin, the issuance of the first commercial real estate tokenized project, came about, and I heard about it, and I looked at the CEO of SolidBlock. I was looking for SolidBlock, the tech company behind the project, and I found Yuval, my now co-founder, and we joined forces. So that's basically how it came about. And I'd love to give you, a little bit of the story behind Yuval's,
Absolutely.
Studying SolidBlock. Yeah.
Yep.
So Yuval, he immigrated to Israel from the U.S. as well. So, but he's born and raised American. I'm actually Ukrainian. I was born in the Soviet Union, which is, if we want to go all the way back there, and my story, in this extremely centralized economy and standing in line for butter at the age of 7 and taking out this money that was completely worthless. That's like a whole, if we have a whole other hour, I can talk about that. And that's another reason why crypto is just so fascinating to me, because I know that this, paper or money is not good. Right. So But Yuval had an IT company creating products, for companies and getting into the internet early on, and also getting into blockchain early on, setting up a mining rig or getting into crypto first, and kind of arriving to blockchain as the tech that companies were building on. So in 2017, there was this, big crypto boom where companies realize that you can raise money with this tool, but the regulation hasn't caught on. So it created a massive hype. And then when you see that in the market, you realize something is off and something is going to happen. So of course, everything collapsed, as the regulators came cracking down. So then came 2017, where crypto was, was really hyped up, and companies realized they can start raising money with this tool, and they were using it to, essentially without regulation. And then regulation caught up with them, and a lot of people realized, a lot of people like Yuval, also like myself, realized that this very soon the market is going to come back and ask for the same solution, but in a regulated and compliant manner. So Yuval had this, vision, I guess, and set up a company that will tokenize, or that will provide this service for real estate space. And that he set up SolidBlock early 2018, and then Elevated Returns, the company that issued the Aspen coin in 2018. Reached out to him, and so and he was one of the very, very early companies that were set up, and so he ended up doing the project. So that was, a premonition that you have a few times in a lifetime, sometimes once in a lifetime. Yeah, that kind of is responsible for our traction as SolidBlock.
Fantastic, and that was definitely interesting times. I remember that this was. Bitcoin had hit, I think something like 20,000 for the first time, and then had crashed back down to, 4,000 or 5,000. And I know Ethereum, the network that you are on, was probably in the same range as far as the percentage drop. So that was definitely interesting times, and to see the opportunity and be able to seize it, I think is fantastic. So tell me about that first project, how that came about. You talked about the Aspen Project, what that entitled, and how you guys sort of executed on that project.
So first of all, the property itself, the Aspen Ski Resort, is kind of a famous property that everybody who skis knows it for sure, but also people in real estate know it. So they needed to do a recap, and that's a $200 million property. Half of it is mortgaged to JP Morgan. So, the owners had a choice. They wanted, initially they wanted to do an IPO. They wanted to do a public REIT. When they got a check in the mail, I guess, or at least an estimate of the costs, where it would cost them over $2 million, they backed out. And so there's not a good tool out there, or there was not a good tool, which allows some of the partners or some of the investors to cash out while leaving the other ones on, right? You can't really sell real estate partially, like parts of real estate, or fractionally right now efficiently, right? So then somebody told them about tokenization, about blockchain. And then they're like, wow, we can actually, do a recap through recapitalization through tokenization, essentially. So we're going to leverage our real estate, and we're going to get some cash, and and let some of the investors exit early. So what a concept, right? And so that's essentially what we did. And the way you do this, because right now you cannot record ownership of the asset directly, on your ledger in the US. In other countries in Europe you can already, but right now in the US you cannot. So the tool that we have to play with is a special purpose vehicle that owns a part of the asset. So that's exactly what we did. There was a special purpose vehicle created. It owned 19.5% of the asset. Why 19.5? Because the bank, JP Morgan, did not agree. Well, did not, basically they said it's okay to tokenize as long as it doesn't exceed 20% of the equity. So we did 19.5. Yeah, but there was so much demand for this asset. Like if we tokenized 50 or 75, it would have been bought. I know, because people were still reaching out to us even, a year after to buy it. So basically SPV was created. It held 19%, or it still holds 19%, 19.5% of the asset. Now, that SPV has to, of course, have a private placement memorandum, which is basically a business plan plus some legal terms. That besides that, it has a smart contract. So we developed a smart contract, which is a blockchain tool that connects the investor to the asset. It outlines the terms of the agreement for the investor, and it outlines security rules for when and how it can be traded. That smart contract is essential to trade in the secondary market. So once the coin was issued, it was issued at $1 per share. There was a number of these digital securities, and it was sold for $1, and when it was listed at $1.30, $30. Yeah, because first of all, the hotel was doing amazing, or the ski resort was doing amazing by the time it was listed. It was listed a little bit after a year. There is a 1-year lockup as per the U.S. regulation between the issuance and the listing. But it's important to understand the role of the smart contract. The smart contract is what allows individuals to trade directly peer-to-peer, not through, you don't have to actually use an ATS on an exchange or a listing. If you hold Aspen Coin, you can actually trade with anyone else who has Ethereum compliant wallet. There's one caveat. There is what's called a whitelist or security list, where any new investor has to pass through KYC, AML, and sometimes accreditation, depending on the stage, in the primary stage mainly, and then they get on this list, and then they're going to be able to trade. So once they get on the list, which is usually the process of getting on the list is done through platforms like SolidBlock. And then they can trade directly. You don't need an exchange. But of course, exchange makes it much more accessible, right, to many individuals who are already signed up. So it was listed on an ATS, automated trading system, called T0, and still there. Listed there. It's doing well. I think the price has gone down a little bit just in the last month or so, because I think they probably had an annual return from last year, which wasn't a fantastic year for hotels. Yeah, so I think that kind of completes the story of the Aspen Coin, unless you have some more questions about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I have a ton of questions. So you started in 2017 or 18 with the Aspen Coin project?
Yeah, 2018.
And it takes you, there's a one year lockup. So you started in 18, but you literally, it went live in 2019. Is that correct?
Yeah, it went live, I think in late 2019, or maybe, late 2019, exactly.
Wow, what a time for a hotel like that, right? Just before the pandemic. What was that process like, where you were actually developing the platform? Was all of that work internal? Were you guys hiring, people to actually build out the SolidBlock platform?
Actually, let me correct myself. I think it actually went in 2020, went live. It went live a little bit over a year, in the middle of the pandemic. And what was interesting about it is that the issuer was, or the resort was using it as a tool to bring customers. They were saying, anybody who owns the securities of Aspen Coin can come and get special privileges, or maybe free stays and things like that. So it's also very interesting, because you can stay in a hotel and as an owner, a partner, and benefit your own ownership and shares value. So in terms of who we had, yeah, Yuval was running the show at that time, and he definitely hired a team of friends. I think he brought in, you know, you kind of have, when you're an entrepreneur and you have like several startups, you meet a bunch of people and you're like, I hope to work with them again. So, and then the time comes, and then you gather everybody around and say, this is your time to shine, right? So
Right.
that's, I think that was pretty much the case. So he hired a bunch of friends to build it out. So
Fantastic, fantastic. And since then, how has the downturn affected you? Obviously, commercial real estate has taken a pretty significant hit because no one's traveling, no one's using the hotels and things of that
yeah.
nature. How has SolidCoin sort of gone through 2020?
Yeah, so so you know, a lot of companies took 2020 to slow down and restructure and kind of do strategy and building. So we also did the same, right? So we also looked at the commercial real estate and we said, wow, nobody's buying it right now. Let's wait a little bit with the commercial real estate. So at that time, we actually onboarded some clients in the residential space. We now have a London Digital Bonds project, which invests in single-family residential products, and then does a fix and flip. So it's a very interesting model. So we created that model, so we're launching that token in the next few weeks. And we started working seriously on process and structuring, and we developed a marketplace. So before 2020, we basically were doing project by project. Aspen Coin has a separate kind of landing page and onboarding. So what we did, we actually developed a marketplace in 2020, and we created, I think, upwards of 30 partnerships with brokers and distributors and crowdfunding platforms, secondary market platforms. So we were heavy on biz dev, and we realized we could do this online and not travel anywhere. So, and then
Right.
that was super interesting, the whole dynamic, because people were open to doing that and now are much more open to doing that. So that was the 2020. We managed to raise money from our lead investor, Built Up Ventures, right before COVID. So we're very lucky with that. And then during 2020, we went back to the investors who were supposed to follow on, and they're like, we don't know what's going to happen, so we're going to hold on to our money. So we stopped fundraising, and we just focused on getting these partnerships and the platform up and running.
Okay. So far, besides the Aspen coin that you started with, have you released any additional investments to the public?
So actually, no, we're now getting our first, after the Aspen, London Digital Bonds. We're going to work with a crowdfunding platform. We're getting the last requirements. So I want to do the first use case where it's truly available to everyone, not only accredited, but also retail investors. So we're getting our last, basically the last bits together to launch it on the crowdfunding along with our platform for accredited. And shortly after, we're launching another coin for a hotel, for a Best Western hotel. And hotels are coming back to life. It's amazing. The market is very, very interesting for hotels. They're being bought, distressed hotels are being bought left and right. People are, hungry for travel again. I think this industry is going to surprise everybody this year.
I'm hoping so. I know a lot of people are planning to travel, once things open back up. Now, let me ask you this. You're obviously talking to a lot of different clients, multifamily hotels, etc. What are the expectations when they are looking at this route versus the standard REIT route that founders have taken in the past? Or is there a different type of conversation there?
So people are so hungry for new solutions, and so they're reaching out to us. We're getting so many inbound calls from people of all walks of life, right? Hotels particularly, and also last year, because last year was very tough on hotels. But this year we're actually starting to look at them. By the way, things already turned around in Israel, where I live. You know,
Right.
the feeling is that there is no COVID, although, you know, I feel like something is coming. You know, it's not over yet. But, you know, everything has reopened, and I don't think I've ever stayed in hotels so much in my life as much as I have in
Wow.
the last 2 months. So it's like it's very interesting. I think that people have missed that, and they're gonna start going everywhere. So yeah, but when we get these calls, you know. Obviously, the sense is that they need access to additional groups of investors, right? And people are looking for ways to attract retail without so much regulation. Kind of like SPAC is kind of going around the IPO.
Hmm.
Tokenization is using kind of this reduced regulation to reach certain groups of investors, which I think is great. It gives an opportunity for smaller projects to get financed. Now, you mentioned Reits, and Reits are a great tool for many investors. And they, you know, but there are public REITs and private REITs. Public REITs offer very limited advantages. You know, you don't get this, you know, this uh, early on type of returns, right? When you're
Hmm.
looking for 20% annual internal rate of return, for example, for new development projects. You know, you
Right.
only get this in a private placement. You could get this in a private REIT, but private REIT, the issue with the private REIT is that obviously you have to pay fees for professional managers, but also private REIT, if you wanted to cash out, you also have to accept the price that's not set by the market, it's set by the REIT
Hmm.
itself. And in our model, the market decides, and you will see how, in just from the sheer fact of going public, like the Aspen coin went public, went up by 30%. There is a 20-30% liquidity premium when something
Wow.
goes public, just because it becomes more available. So you know it has much higher demand. So that's one thing, and then we'll see a lot of institutions jumping on board to 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 get this new revenue model where you can actually invest smaller amounts, even for institutions that usually
Hmm.
finance the whole project, right? 20, 30, $50 million. They could put in a little less money in a shorter periods of time, and they can cash out by selling to other institutions or other individuals, actually, when it goes public. So that's a new business model for this market, and they're understanding it now, and that's why they're investing into organizations so heavily. You know,
Right.
like at least eight major banks invested in tokenization solutions in the last year or two. A few of them
Hmm.
issued tokenized bonds. You know, just from looking at that, we know that we're in the right industry because you know it's just 1 minute away from going mainstream, and when it's when it goes mainstream, it's way too late, right? So
Yeah.
for me, for
So,
start,
that let's talk about that 30% premium when the coin was listed, because that's a, you know, a 30% return on a commercial real estate property is unheard of, right? Even in development, it's
in
tough
a
to
year
get.
on the yielding commercial. By the way, that doesn't include dividends, right? So they
Right,
receive
exactly.
100% dividends additionally. Yeah. So
So
if
is that the expectations that instead of going the traditional REIT route, if you go the coin route, your assets are going to get that 20 to 30% premium just because you're introducing liquidity into the equation?
yes, I believe so. And I did some research in general on non-tokenized projects. Let's say you have a shopping mall and it becomes a part of a REIT. The
Hmm.
value goes up. Even, you know, obviously not the value of, there's no trading on a private REIT, but if you look at the valuation, you know, appraisal, traditional appraisal, it will go up by 20-30%. As well, right? Because now it's
Right.
become more available. It becomes more available. Just like, you know, your real estate becomes more valuable when you have a subway station build next to it, because there's much more demand for that real estate. It's very, it's a similar way. Like, you have this new avenue to buy this real estate, which is it becomes much more accessible. Demand goes up, price goes up. It's very simple. So we're gonna start seeing that type of thing happening more and more. And you see this in IPOs as well, right? Initially, the price goes way up, and then it might go a little bit down. But with real estate, there's not too much fluctuation that's expected, not more than 30%, because you always have this value, which is the NAV, the net asset value, or initially when they issue the asset, it's the appraisal of the asset, and then afterwards, of course, you have other considerations, revenues and things like that.
So how big is this market? Let's say, I'm an investor, I'm looking for commercial real estate. I would like to stay liquid. If I did go on the Ethereum network, how many properties are available right now? Give us a sense of the universe right now.
So there's not a lot of real estate available. There are many, many equity products available and funds. Not a lot of real estate. Real estate is a very different animal. It requires a lot of understanding of the market. So right now, I think there are about 5 or 6 products that you can buy on the secondary market. There are many, many products that you can buy in the primary, and if you're an institution now. So, those get available all the time, all through, for the last 3 years, there's been around $3 to $5 billion issued in real estate to institutions, and they didn't go public on exchanges. For various reasons.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, they didn't go public. They keep, they basically keep over-the-counter trading for institutions, maybe for accredited investors. So there are various reasons for that. One was the high cost of listing, and also the low liquidity on the exchanges as they were building up. Now the liquidity is going up. We see a lot of trading on T0, where Aspen Coin is listed. We see a lot of trading happening. 5 to 10% of the volume for the Aspen Coin is trading monthly. That's a good thing.
Wow,
yeah. So I predict that by the end of the year, we'll see a significant number of projects listed on exchanges and traded.
Okay. So I know, we know what real estate has done in the private market, or even for REITs for that matter. Give us a sense of where the Aspen coin is today. Initially, you said it had a 30% premium. Has it settled back into a more sort of closer to that NAV?
No, it's now at a 20% premium, I think, last time I checked.
Okay.
I'll check again for us right now. But I think the reason it went down, number one, I think just there was an annual report out for 2020, and people just were not confident in hotels and that industry anymore.
Okay.
So that's why. But I think it will, once things pick up, it will go back up.
Absolutely. Okay. Also, the initial offering you said was a little over, little less than 20%. So I'm guessing it was in the 40 million range. Have you done? Has there been any conversations about follow-on offerings to increase that percentage amount?
Yes, absolutely. Sorry, I was looking at the price.
Okay.
And it's really fluctuating at around 25. It's sitting at around 25, but it went down slightly just a few days ago to 15. Sorry.
Wow. Okay.
Can you repeat the question?
No. So I was just trying to get a sense of what the institutional reaction was to the listing. So initially, I think you said a little less than 20% offering. So in just rough calculations, if the NAV was about 200 million, I'm guessing the initial offering was about 40 million. Has there been any conversations to increase that 40 million? Do the institutions now feel comfortable with this kind of offering?
I understand. So the 200 million was the overall equity and mortgage. So it was 18 million tokenized. And,
okay.
I don't think there was. I don't know if there was any discussion because right now, we can probably contact the elevated returns and see if they contacted. I'm sure that they could if they wanted to. I'm sure that they could. I think that the bank is not going to be against it. Especially because JP Morgan now is like so many things have changed. Like in the last 3 years, like huge banks jumped into crypto, right? JP Morgan.
Yep.
I think that they definitely would be more comfortable.
Okay. Fantastic. So give us a sense of, I think I have a pretty good understanding of where you are today. What's the next 12 months, 18 months, as things start to open back up and commercial real estate valuations get back to more normal levels? What are you guys hoping to achieve with SolidBlock?
So we are, right now we are one of the most recognized brands in the market, but we want to be the top real estate investment bank using digital securities for, as a medium, as a medium of investment and exchange, right? So in order to get there, we're issuing a few more coins and creating these solid relationships. Improving our marketplace in terms of tech, and with this next round that we're raising and that we're about to close, we're going to bring a large number of users to our marketplace as well, so that we can provide fundraising services as well.
Got it. And do you expect the focus to remain on the coins, the private offerings, or do you expect it to shift to more crowdfunding? You mentioned those crowdfunding platforms also. Where do you expect the majority of your focus to be?
That's a fantastic question. So we are waiting for the regulation to catch up. There is a regulation called Reg A+. It's very similar to a public offering, but with lesser requirements. So far, a few companies are waiting for the approval. I think elections got in the way. So once we see a project approved for that regulation, you can raise up to $75 million. So that's gonna also let the market fly, right? Very, very attractive. So we're waiting for that as well. Right now, we are using crowdfunding route for up to $5 million in raise. Yeah, so I think it's gonna open up, for retail investors as well through Reg A+, this initial private stage. And in any case, in the secondary stage, it's open to retail already on the automated trading system. So, we can say that, there will be a premium, of course, for the secondary stage. So it's not necessarily improving access to the best value to retail investors. So that's why we're also, working on getting everybody in at the primary stage.
Got it. And the 5 million that you mentioned on the crowdfunding platforms, is that a limit that's set per project, or tell me a little bit more about that?
That's per year per project. That's by, that's the SEC regulation.
Got it. So if you had a larger project, you'd have to go on the private end anyway to raise the additional
private, or we will do what's called a regulation A+. That's an exemption that's similar to going public, but with less stringent requirements. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, perfect. So just to get a sense of, what your capabilities are, how many projects can you actually execute on over the next 12 months?
So we're planning to execute another 10 projects.
10?
Yeah.
Wow, okay. That's very ambitious.
In the pipeline. Yeah, we have all the projects in the pipeline where, we have to finish the race so we can hire a few more people to execute. But once we have a project in each category, commercial, multifamily, residential, we have, debt offering, we have equity offering. Once we have a project of each type, it's easier for us to replicate. the new ones.
Got
So.
it. Got it. And just to get an understanding, we don't have to go too far into detail on this, but SolidBlock, does it normally just collect a fee similar to if a investment bank helped you go, file your IPO, they'd collect a fee? Is that the model, or do you plan to take equity in these investments and then sort of hope that that equity grows over time?
Right, so we have onboarding fees, so as an investment bank would as well, and
Hmm.
we have a transaction fee that's similar to PayPal, or credit card fee. So that's our model, right? And
Got
then
it.
once it goes to trading, we'll also have a fee on top of the trading fee, kind of a fraction of the trading fee.
Got it. Okay. Fantastic. So now I sort of understand the business model and understand what you're trying to achieve. What do you see as the ultimate goal? Where are you hoping to take this? Is this going to be the next Goldman Sachs?
Well, in the next term, in the next, let's say 3-4 years, yes. But then in year 5-6, hopefully before we exit, will be the global NASDAQ rather for real
Mm,
estate, right? So by that point, we'll get our our own exchange, and also build a network of exchanges rather, right? So that's what we're planning to do. We're building an exchange interoperability solution so that we can put our products on multiple exchanges in the world and create like one global, very advanced trading platform. So liquidity should be global. There's no reason why people or stocks should be traded in silos. The whole thing about New York Stock Exchange or Chicago Stock Exchange, Toronto, it's lost its meaning in general, because you're
hmm.
not, people are not sitting there on the phone and trading anymore through their brokers in a specific city. So there is no reason to have that, and we can have a global network. Yes, each exchange brings their own audience. That's fantastic, but for us, it's an opportunity to create a cross jurisdiction play, and create a lot more liquidity in the market.
Absolutely, especially when you're on the blockchain network, you can be anywhere in the world, and it really doesn't matter, how or who can trade those coins, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing this story with us. SolidBlock is doing something that's so unique that I really haven't seen, and I really love this take on blockchain and how you're sort of making commercial real estate, which is one of the most illiquid asset classes, you're making that liquid. So I really appreciated learning about your business. Any final thoughts?
Yes. So imagine the possibilities, right? So imagine back in the beginning of the century when banks started, forming consumer banks and consumer products with a bank, right? You now have money sitting in a bank, so you can have other products like credit cards and mortgages, and you can invest in securities, right, through your bank. So imagine the same possibilities when real estate becomes digital and fractionalized. So it's much more easily collateralized. Now imagine the whole loan market, right? The lending market opening up to people who hold the token. So that creates opportunities for those who cannot buy real estate, right? There are a lot of people that are unbanked in the world. So,
Mhm.
at least 2 billion people, right? They can now hold some real estate through tokens and then go out and get a loan against it and start building their own business or building their life. So that creates opportunities. Beyond that, all the derivatives and ETFs and indices and things like that, right, of real estate, you can create your own REIT, essentially,
Mhm.
right? Basically be your own investment bank, right? And then you can use these, tokens as a tool for so many things.
Yep.
So, naturally we're developing some of these tools, but also our platform will allow for third-party developers and applications for all these tokens, right? We're going to tokenize here, bring your real estate, deposit it with our investment bank. And now you have the tokens, and then, you know, imagine all the additional apps like you have now, banking apps and financial apps. We're going to have that around digital securities. We have a focus on real estate, but there are going to be other companies obviously focused on other markets.
Absolutely, and this is going to open up a whole new world of liquidity, as well as, you know, ownership, and that pride of ownership that comes. Right now, people can appreciate that with, you know, buying a share of Apple or Microsoft. Now they'll be able to buy a share of, you know, a five-star hotel or an office complex or something to that effect.
Exactly, or an apartment where they live. You know.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing this. This has been really, really good. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us. Let's continue the conversation. For any investors that are out there, they can certainly reach out to us, or go on the Startup Share platform and connect with you directly. Yeah, and let's make sure we get you the resources you need to keep going.
Okay, thank you, Deval.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.